Hey everyone, it is Jessica Crenshaw again with Poetry Worldwide. This is our second episode, and I'm really excited about the feedback that we're getting. We really appreciate everyone viewing, sharing, telling a girlfriend about the first episode because we are getting a lot of good feedback from there, a lot of likes, a lot of shares. So please keep that good energy going. As I said before, this is the second episode, and we're already growing. So within January to now, we are growing exponentially. And first, I want to take out a little bit of time to thank WYTV7, Christian Broadcasters Network, once again for believing in the dream, believing in the vision, and seeing the importance of poets, artists, spoken word artists, hip hop artists' voices. So we do thank you for this platform. But today I am really looking forward to this interview. We have somebody out of the beautiful state of Florida, and she is an excellent young lady, young writer, and she decided to take her poetic journey, as we like to call it here on the show, to the next level. So without further ado, without further delay, let's welcome to Poetry Worldwide, Miss Latonia Smith. How you doing, Miss Smith?
I'm good. And you? Good morning.
I'm doing good. Yeah, definitely. Good morning. But I was just telling our audience today that you're fiery young poet out of the state of Hollywood, Florida. So you're coming straight out of Hollywood. So we love that.
Yes.
But we're just going to take our time, enjoy ourselves today, and have a little bit of poetic conversation. So let the listeners into some of your bio here. So, Latonya, I'm just going to speak for you. So, Ms. Smith is a poet, promoter, and now she is an author that lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She also works as a medical biller. She's the only child, and she was raised by a single mother. And growing up, Latonya was a very curious child and couldn't understand why she would challenge a history teacher on Black history. So already the makings of a young poet there. But once she went into the Black History Library, she found the poet, or you could say the poet found her, by the name of Langston Hughes. So Latonya started writing for fun and not knowing that her poems would speak to anyone, or she would be, like most poets are, saying what folks wish they could say, until a friend read her poem and prompted her and said, "Girl, people would love to hear this." Um, and there was also some hardships along the way. So after she was diagnosed with endometriosis, she started writing to express the feelings that she had as a child, to try to help her understand what happened to her. Now her nickname is Tazz, and you will probably meet Tazz here on the show. So that's gonna be good. And that is her alter ego. So Beyonce got Sasha Fierce. Miss Smith has Tazz here. And since the birth of Tazz, Latonya has published her first book entitled Crossroads, and we're going to get into a little bit of that. And that is available on Amazon. So have your credit card ready at the end of the show. So, and this is a beautiful story. Tazz has gone from a shy woman coming out of her shell and now gracing the stage with author and event host of Eargasm, Poetry, and Chill with Ty Hope. And Latonya's always working. So she's currently working on more poems, poetry events. She's also trying to showcase her own event. So that's also something you need to look out there internationally. And coming soon, I'm excited about this. She's coming out with her own book of poems called Tazzmatic Book of Poems. So, I need some water after that. You built up quite a resume here. I'm getting thirsty. Um, just from the bio, guys, you guys are in for a treat today. So, Latonya, you have a very beautiful bio, very beautiful creative resume. Let me go ahead and just begin by asking, when writing, how do you come up with the type of poems you write?
Mm, it depends.
Okay.
Sometimes it might be an emotion that I'm going through. I might catch a movie and see a statement or a situation.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I might come up with a phrase. I've learned to stop what I'm doing and write it down. Even if it's just that phrase, I can
Mm-hmm.
always go back to it. So sometimes I've asked a friend to give me a subject, something that they haven't seen me do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll write down a couple of words, see what catch me, and I'll
Mm.
go from there. If
Okay.
it doesn't move me spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, I can't do it.
Okay. That's
So I kind of go from there.
That's good. That's actually how most poets get started. Like you could watch a movie, maybe you've seen it 5 or 6 different times, and then like that little phrase just comes up
Hmm.
and sparks something. So that's definitely in line with a lot of the writers and artists that you see out here today. So you're definitely in good company. Now you were
Thank
speaking
you.
about definitely. Now you were speaking about something that catches you. So I want to flow to the next question of who or
Mhm.
what influences you the most when you write? Is it a person or is it a thing?
Sometimes it's a person.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's we tend to hide certain things or bury certain things. So at a
Hmm.
certain part of life and growing, it kind of comes back up. So it's like that emotion.
Hmm.
It's like for me, it's time to write about it. It's time to close that chapter because you done buried it. Somehow it came back up. So it's
Definitely.
like it's a battle with myself to try to conquer whatever made that come back up.
Hmm.
And most of the time, poetry kind of makes me open it back up, close it, and seal the deal.
All right. Well,
So,
mhm,
so I grow as a better person.
that's great.
It just
We
only helps me.
Now that's great because we poets have I always said that poets should come with warning labels that anything you say and do will be used against you in a poem. So so you better
Yeah.
watch out and
Uh,
treat us right while you have the chance there. But that's good. Would you say that poetry is like a form of therapy, a way of releasing? Would you say that?
Poetry, to be honest, a different different levels for me.
Hmm.
It helps me open up. It helps me become a better woman. It helps me to influence another woman that may be going through something that she hasn't told anybody.
Mm.
But you never know what your emotions, your feelings can actually help with someone else. So I try to be positive and just kind of step out of my comfort zone
Hmm.
and try to think as someone else, but then use my words and my expressions to put myself in that situation of bringing out all the emotions that a lot of people don't know that I actually do.
All right, man. Just you can almost it's almost like you can I think poetry is your superpower, honey, because it just sounds like you can pull from the environment, you can pull from people and just write these beautiful poems. So that's great. Now since we are on the subject of writing, I do want to ask, how often do you write? Do you have to be in a certain mind frame? Do you write on every Tuesday, or just some advice for some of our budding writers out
Mm. Poetry sometimes catch me at the odd moments. I can be hurt and something come up and I have to jot it down.
there? Hmm.
Or I can be at home. I don't put a time frame on it. Whenever something inspires me,
Hmm.
whenever I feel the moment or the need or express myself, I write. Sometimes I even be asleep and something wakes me up and it's like those some words and it's like, okay. And sometimes I go back to back and write 2, 3 poems. It all depends at that moment. So I
Definitely.
don't put it stop myself whenever I have a moment, even if I'm driving or I'm in the car, if I have to make a note on my phone, I do that.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
whatever
So,
inspires me, whatever time of day, night, morning, doesn't even matter.
all right. So your basic advice is just to let it flow. So whenever they call it the muse, so whenever the muse shows up, you wake up and you start
Hmm.
writing. So yeah, that's really great
Yeah.
advice for somebody that is, trying to get into the poetry game, and maybe they have all of these, because we do have young viewers, young listeners. So, you're speaking directly to someone who is in the poetry game and is just wondering, well, when should I start writing? So you definitely touched on that. Now, I want to get to the good part here. I am wondering, Miss
Mm.
Ma'am, who is Tazzmatic, and where did this person come from? Please let our viewers know that.
Taz was my little childhood bad girl. That
Okay.
was if I wanted to do something or Taz was the person that came out because I was the only child. I am shy. I am very close when it comes to certain things. So Taz is more of a calm, cool, fun person. But Tazmatic comes from the shyness, the always encourage, always inspiring, always loyalty, always there for others.
Mhm.
But Taz is more of the feisty, the the mm, the other person, my side person that I turn into when I want to challenge myself, become somebody that I know I can be. And
Mhm.
it kind of helps me get out of my shell because it's like Taz is unstoppable. Once Taz gets started, you
Mhm.
can't stop Taz from doing whatever she wants to do.
All right. All
Right.
right. Happy International Women's Month, y'all. It's coming. He is coming. She wants all the monies. I'm telling you. Well, that is actually a very beautiful statement. So, I mean, because at the end of the
Thank you.
day, we are now, unless you a twin, we're born by ourselves, and sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when you're an artist, you have to be your own biggest fan. You have to believe
Yeah.
in that your writing is great before anybody else does. So I think Taz is
Yes.
really doing you a huge, just now from what I'm understanding, it seems like Taz is really doing is like your coach, like, come on, girl, we gotta get up on this stage, we gotta write this poem. What they say,
Yeah.
2018 is our year, but we're gonna be
Yes.
great in
I am my worst
2018.
opponent.
I mean, and I think that's something that people can really relate to. So you're really speaking to a lot of people right now. So now we're kind of flowing into the soul side of the show, as I like to call it. So let me ask, now, with all of the things that you've went through, um, how has God affected your art and your life?
Faith. He keeps pushing me. If it wasn't for the faith of how I was raised, born and raised in a church, close to my grandma who was a church member, my auntie was a deacon. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, a pastor. My dad's a deacon.
Okay.
So I had a lot of education of when it's bad, it's a lesson. I've always believed that things happen for a reason. You
Mm,
may not understand it, you may challenge it, but it's not your battle.
mm,
My auntie used to always tell me, and I could never understand, you have a gift, you're here for a purpose.
mm,
There's a reason why you walk and do what you do. You may not understand it, you're a nurturer. But once you get older, once you get mature, you'll get it. And it took a while for me to understand. And I guess poetry was that gift. I've always thought it was a little talent I had, something I did for fun. When people actually read and like, no, it's not a game. You have a passion and you give 100% of your emotions in it, and it's real. It comes from the heart. And This is your passion. This is your calling. Even if you may not understand it, this is what you may meant to be doing. And this is not just like your hobby. This is a talent. Showcase it. So once I got to understand and became open to showcasing or letting people see it, I believed in myself, and that's when my faith kicked up. That's when I will always say that I have angels that walks with me.
Definitely.
And at my weakest moments, I still kind of pull and push myself to continue. Even when I don't feel like moving, I still push myself to continue, because I know if I didn't, and if it wasn't the strength of God and my faith and my humanity, I wouldn't make it. Some days I want to throw out the white flag and it be like, you are God's child. You are his angel. It's not for you. There's a purpose. So I always believe things happen for a reason. No matter the battle, it's not your battle. You're just the person that uses.
All right. Well, I mean, you're definitely preaching. So that a lot of that kind of hit my soul. I guess maybe I was testifying too much on the interview, but real is always going to recognize real. So I mean, you
Exactly.
just from what you said, you're going to connect with a lot of people who might have had a little taste of church, or might have, like me, grown up in the church. Everybody's saved, sanctified, or trying to come back to the Lord, or so, however the journey might be. But I mean, that was very, very powerful. And I did
Thank you.
want to ask, what motivational words would you have for our listeners today? So what would you say to that only child, or to that single mother, or that struggling writer, just with everything going on? What words of inspiration would you like to leave them with today?
To believe in yourself,
Mm,
to, regardless of what your day-to-day life is, regardless of the problems or the stress or the aggravation, don't give up. You have to believe in yourself. You have to motivate yourself first. You have to self-love yourself first. You have to believe that everything happens for a reason. It makes you stronger. You're going to be stronger. Keep the faith. Keep praying. Keep striving. Keep pushing. Don't give up, even at your weakest. Just find the strength. Pray and just keep moving. Because you actually never know your situation, and how someone outside looking in might see something that you don't see,
mm,
and you kind of help them with their situation, because you never know what people's situations is. Have had people stop me and was like, you have endometriosis, and I also have a trait of sickle cell. So at the same time it hit, and people who never known me to have it be like, your strength. It be days that I do not want to do anything. It be days that I break, but I know I'm here. So it's just like I keep moving. I take a prayer and I just keep moving. I smile when I want to cry. I move when I know I don't have the strength or I'm in pain to move. So I tell anybody, someone out there problem is worse than yours.
mm.
Don't never think that you got it. Someone has it worse. It's just not your time. Patience, prayer, confidence, motivation in yourself, believing in yourself, it gets you through a lot of trials and tribulations.
Wow.
And you have to be your biggest fan.
Mm. Well, Miss Tazz, you are definitely preaching out here today. I want to get resaved. I've been saved twice. Southern Baptist. I'm thinking about dipping down in the water again. But girl, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
you never know what someone is going through. So that's definitely
exactly.
beautiful. Now, before I start, before I catch the Holy Ghost, let's talk about your book here. So I did want to highlight. I want to highlight all of you today. So
Okay.
now from your bio, you have a book out that was self-published called Crossroads. So I do want to ask, what is the book about? What subjects are discussed, and how did you come to write your first book? That's quite an accomplishment.
Thank you. It wasn't something that I planned. It was actually a poem. And let a couple of people read it, and it was like, you can't stop there. Keep going. Add more to it. I'm like, but it's a poem. Make it longer. And with poems, you really don't have a length.
Hmm.
So I kept going and kept going and kept going. One page wound up being 6 pages. And let them read it again. It's like it kept going. So it turned into a book of its own. And the book is actually about a lady actually running into a car problem that night and meeting a gentleman that is nice and actually helps her. And she goes back to his house. They become good friends. It's nothing interactive. It's just, it's hard to find someone who actually 2, 3 o'clock in the morning who's there to help you. So it was basically a fantasy that it kind of created. And in the book, it goes on that they become friends, they become dating, come to find out he's married. And he works for the FBI. And his wife is kind of doing some illegal activity that he either can go to jail because of his position or he can turn her in. So in the mix of kind of turning her in, he meets this lady that he kind of try to covers the situation, but it kind of backfires and the wife walks in. He kind of give her a letter that basically tells her what's going on, tell her to go out of town or kill what's going on and have a vacation for a little bit. Somehow he kind of finds her and she don't want to talk to him. They started back talking and it's based off she lost that trust. So she had to build that trust with him again. And to build that trust, she had to build her faith. She had to believe how she grew up is actually, you don't judge a book by its cover and you always give a person a second chance. So the trust was actually a personal situation with me where I had to build my trust because I was in a situation where I was broken. So I kind of used my personal situation on that. But the outcome of the book is she started to trust. They got married. They had a child. And I'm currently working on part 2 of that book.
All right. Well, I'm gonna speak right into the microphone. Tyler Perry, you just got your next movie. So just stop what you're doing, Tyler. You got your next book right here with Latonia Smith. So we're gonna say it loud for the folks sitting in the back. But
Thank
that
you.
is a beautiful story. So once again,
Thank
that
you.
book is on Amazon right now. It's finna get hot. You're gonna want to lay by the pool, read this book, have a sister circle, and talk about it. So please get in contact with this beautiful, beautiful poet. So we're kind of winding down. And I did
Okay.
want to ask, that you would talk a little bit about the poetry and chill, and then also how people can contact you, or like, can they do it through social media? Is it just email?
Okay. 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 Well, I started working with T.Y. Hope. She kind of pushed me to come to a poetry event. And my first event, she knew I was intimidated. I've never really like performed, so I was very intimidated. So she kind of made me comfortable. And it was scary, but I actually did it. It was called Never. It was based off a personal situation that I had to kind of close. A chapter in my life. I was pregnant, had a miscarriage. Also not knowing I had endometriosis at the same time. So that what kind of triggered it. So it was like sometimes we put stuff in the back of our head just to brush it off to not feel the pain. And that's what I did, but it kind of blocked me from being the person that I wanted to be or to become because didn't know how to express my feelings. So when I wrote it, it was like you're pulling off a Band-Aid and opening up old wounds, but once you're done with it, it kind of heals itself. So, and I've actually sent her the copy before I did it, so she knew it was kind of emotional. So she kind of like babied me until I got to the stage. And with her poetry, it's more of a orgasm, of a sexual, bring your own style, but the whole intention is to make the people say orgasm or rewind. So my first poem wasn't that. So it was like she saw the potential. She understood where I came from. So she kind of challenged me to be more open, to pull out of my shell and to do a more of a PG-13 type of poem. And it bothered me because it's like, okay, I don't like challenges because I don't like to fail. Especially when I know it's something that helped me and opened me up, I'm going to work at it. Next, it's just that it was called Permission. And she was so surprised and like, that's your hot spot
Yeah.
because it brings me out of my shell. So that's kind of where I had to think about. Latonia is a shy girl, cool, laid back, always observe, want to do things, but I'll go back in her shell.
Yeah.
Tazz is more of a, we finna get it done. I don't care how nervous you are or how scared you are. Under Tazz, anything is possible.
And
So that's when I kind of use. I'm
I
sorry.
I apologize. I wanted to also ask because we're coming to a close. I wanted to ask where can people contact you, like on your social media?
I'm on Facebook as Latonia Smith. I
Mhm.
also have um a follow page of Tanya where my poetry is actually located.
Okay.
Tonia. I'm also on Instagram, Tazz the Poet. I'm also on LinkedIn, Latonia Smith, and Twitter, Lady Tazz. You can email me at tasmatic5@gmail.com or sexytaz6@gmail.com.
All right. Now that's great information. Reach out to her, speak with her, especially about the information that she's given us today. And we definitely want to wind the show down. But Latonia, thank you so much for being on the show. Putting yourself out there as an artist, and once again, we just really appreciate you being on the show today.
And thank you for having me. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank WYTV TV 7, I'm sorry, for giving the opportunity to do something that I've never thought I would actually do.
All right. Well, listeners, once again, you were in for a treat. And we're going to wind the show down. And before we break, we want to keep Christ as the focus of our show. So if you're watching today and you don't have a personal relationship with the Lord, you're not saved. We definitely want to invite you into what we call the believer's prayer. And it's very simple. So all you would have to say is, Lord Jesus, I repent of my sins. Come into my life. I make you my Lord and Savior. Now, after you do this, get into a Bible-based church and honor God. Keep him first in everything you do. And just like Joel says, he'll take you to heights that you never even dreamed of. But once again, we want to thank WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network for believing in this dream, believing in this poet and this poet. And once again, we are Poetry Worldwide. We are giving poets a voice. Are you ready to be heard? Have a good day.